She was 3 days away from quitting fashion forever. Maya Rodriguez, 22 years old, had $47 in her bank account, an eviction notice on her door, and 6 dresses no one wanted to buy hanging in a boutique that barely anyone visited. This was supposed to be her last week, last attempt, last hope. But on a Tuesday afternoon, someone walked into that boutique. Someone who'd built an entire career on being too weird, too bold, too different. Someone who recognized genius when everyone else saw garbage. Lady Gaga picked up one of Maya's dresses, turned it inside out, examined every stitch, and asked one question that would change everything. Who made this? What happened in the next 72 hours didn't just save Maya's career. It reminded the fashion world that the next revolution doesn't come from Milan or Paris. Sometimes it comes from a girl with $47 and a sewing machine in a studio apartment in East LA. Welcome to Celebrity Stories. Before we continue this story of desperation, discovery, and the 72 hours that changed everything, tell me in the comments, have you ever been 3 days from giving up on your dream? Drop your city and your story. And if you believe talent deserves to be seen, hit subscribe. This channel exists to make sure it is. Maya's landlord knocked at 7 a.m. Not a polite knock, the kind that said pay or leave. I need 3 days, Maya said through the door, not opening it. I have pieces at a boutique. If they sell, they're not going to sell. The landlord cut her off. You've been saying that for 4 months. Friday, cash, or you're out. 3 days, 72 hours to pull off a miracle. Maya sat on the floor of her studio apartment, surrounded by fabric scraps and half-finished designs. The sewing machine her grandmother had given her sat silent in the corner. She'd barely used it in weeks. What was the point? She'd graduated from fashion school 2 years ago, top of her class. Everyone said she was talented, special, different, but different doesn't pay rent. And special doesn't get you hired when every fashion house wants safe, commercial, mass-producible designs. Maya's work wasn't safe. It was raw, deconstructed. She took vintage pieces and reimagined them into something that looked like wearable art. Too niche, one hiring manager had said. Not marketable, said another. Who would actually wear this? Said the worst one. So Maya worked retail, 9-hour shifts at a fast fashion store, selling the exact kind of clothes she hated. Cheap, disposable, soulless. And at night, when she had energy left, she'd come home and create. Not for anyone, just because she couldn't stop. 6 months ago, she'd made a deal with a vintage boutique on Melrose. They'd sell her pieces on consignment, 60-40 split. Maya had delivered 12 pieces over 4 months. 2 had sold, total earnings $340, minus the boutique's cut, $204. She needed $1,200 for rent. She had $47. Maya pulled out her phone and opened her banking app one more time, hoping the numbers had magically changed. They hadn't. She opened Instagram, 847 followers. Her last post, a dress she'd spent 40 hours making, had gotten 23 likes, 3 comments. One was her mom. Maya closed the app and stared at the ceiling. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe it was time to stop. Lady Gaga wasn't supposed to be on Melrose that Tuesday. She had a fitting scheduled in Beverly Hills, but traffic was a nightmare, and her driver suggested a detour. They ended up on a side street Gaga had never noticed before, and she saw it. A small vintage boutique with a hand-painted sign that said, "Hidden Gems." "Stop here," Gaga said. Her security started to protest, but she was already out of the car. She'd learned a long time ago that the best inspiration came from places people overlooked. The boutique smelled like old leather and possibility. Racks of vintage coats, 80s blazers, 70s dresses, most of it forgettable, but Gaga had an eye trained by decades of pushing fashion boundaries. She could spot real talent in a sea of garbage. And then she saw it. A dress, black base, with hand-stitched crimson thread that looked like veins. The hem was deliberately raw, unfinished, aggressive. The shoulders were reconstructed from what looked like vintage military epaulets. It was violent and beautiful at the same time. Gaga pulled it off the rack, flipped it inside out. Every stitch was deliberate. Every seam told a story. This wasn't mass-produced. This was made by hands that understood construction. "Excuse me," Gaga called to the owner, an older woman sorting through a box of jewelry. "Who made this?" The woman looked up, adjusted her glasses, and smiled. "Oh, that. Local designer. Young girl. Maya something. She brings pieces in sometimes. Does she have a website? Instagram? Representation? I don't think so. She just has a card. Want me to grab it? Please." The woman disappeared into the back and returned with a wrinkled business card. Hand-printed. No logo. Just a name, phone number, and email. Maya Rodriguez, fashion designer. Gaga pulled out her phone and took a photo of the card, then she bought the dress and 2 others Maya had made. The owner seemed shocked. "These have been here for weeks," she said. "No one's touched them. They weren't looking close enough," Gaga said. 15 minutes later, Gaga was back in her car, texting her assistant. "Find everything you can on Maya Rodriguez, fashion designer, LA. I want to meet her, today if possible." Maya's phone rang at 4:32 p.m., unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. Probably another creditor. It rang again 30 seconds later. Same number. Maya answered, irritated. "Hello? Hi, is this Maya Rodriguez?" "Yeah. Who's this?" "My name is Sarah Chen. I work for Lady Gaga. Gaga saw your work at a boutique on Melrose today and would like to meet you." Maya almost laughed. This had to be a prank, one of her friends messing with her. "Right, and I'm Coco Chanel. Nice try. I understand this sounds... Look, I'm having a really bad day, so if this is a joke, it's not funny." "It's not a joke. Gaga bought 3 of your pieces today. She's very impressed. She'd like to discuss a potential opportunity. Are you available tomorrow morning?" Maya's hand was shaking. "You're serious?" "Completely. Can you come to a studio in West Hollywood tomorrow at 10 a.m.? I'll text you the address. I have a shift tomorrow. Can you get someone to cover it?" Maya thought about the $47 in her account, the eviction notice, the 3 days she had left. "Yeah," Maya said, "I can make it work." "Perfect. Dress code is casual. Just bring yourself and your portfolio if you have one." Maya hung up and sat in stunned silence. Then she opened her phone and Googled Lady Gaga assistant Sarah Chen. The first result was a LinkedIn profile, Director of Creative Affairs for House of Gaga. This was real. Maya didn't sleep that night. She updated her portfolio, pressed her only professional outfit, and rehearsed what she'd say 100 times in her head. At 9:47 a.m., she stood outside a nondescript building in West Hollywood, clutching a folder with printed photos of her work. Sarah Chen met her in the lobby. "Maya, great to meet you in person. Gaga's upstairs. She's excited to meet you." They took an elevator to the 3rd floor, walked down a hallway lined with gold records, and entered a studio space that looked like organized chaos. Fabric everywhere, sketches pinned to walls, and in the center of it all, sitting at a table with one of Maya's dresses laid out in front of her, was Lady Gaga. She looked up and smiled. "Maya, thank you for coming. Sit, let's talk." Gaga didn't waste time on small talk. "I want to know your process," she said, gesturing to the dress. "Walk me through how you made this." Maya took a breath and explained how she'd found the base dress at a thrift store, how she'd deconstructed it completely, then rebuilt it with military surplus fabric and hand-dyed thread, how every stitch was intentional, every choice deliberate. Gaga listened, nodded, asked technical questions that proved she knew exactly what she was talking about. "You have something most designers don't," Gaga said when Maya finished. "You're not trying to make clothes. You're trying to make statements. That's rare. It's also apparently unmarketable," Maya said before she could stop herself. Gaga smiled. "Only if you're trying to sell to people with no vision. When I started, everyone told me I was too much, too weird, too theatrical. They said I'd never work. Do you know why I did?" Maya shook her head. "Because I stopped trying to fit their boxes. I made my own, and that's what you need to do." "That's hard to do when you're 3 days from being evicted." The words came out harsher than Maya intended, but Gaga didn't flinch. "How much do you need?" Maya's throat tightened. I'm not asking for... I didn't ask if you were asking. I asked how much you need." $1,200 for rent." Gaga turned to Sarah. "Handle it." "Today." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I can't just take... You're not taking, you're earning. Here's the deal." Gaga leaned forward. "I'm launching a new project, major campaign. I need fresh creative vision. I want you on my styling team. Trial basis, 3 months. You'll work with my head stylist, learn the process, contribute ideas. If it works, we make it permanent, and I'll help you launch your own line. If it doesn't work, you walk away with 3 months pay and experience most designers never get." Maya couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "But I need to know right now if you're in, because I don't wait for people who aren't ready to jump." Maya found her voice. I'm in. Gaga extended her hand. They shook. Good. You start Monday. Sarah will send you the details. Welcome to House of Gaga. Maya stood backstage at the MTV Awards, hands shaking, watching Lady Gaga prepare for her entrance. Gaga was wearing one of Maya's designs, a dress Maya had conceptualized, sketched, constructed, and perfected over 6 weeks. It was bold, aggressive, unapologetically weird. You're sure about this? Maya had asked 3 days ago during final fittings. Gaga had said, I've never been more sure of anything. This is exactly what the world needs to see. Now, as Gaga stepped onto the red carpet, cameras exploded. Fashion reporters leaned in. Social media erupted. By the time Gaga reached the press line, who made that dress was trending. Gaga smiled at every camera and said the same thing. It's Maya Rodriguez, new designer. Remember that name. The next morning, Maya woke up to 47,000 new Instagram followers and 12 emails from fashion publications wanting interviews. 3 weeks later, Vogue called. 6 months after that, Maya launched her first collection. Small, 20 pieces. But every one of them sold out in 4 days. She still worked with Gaga, still learned, still pushed boundaries. But now she was also building something of her own. Maya never forgot what 72 hours felt like. The desperation, the fear, the moment she was ready to quit. So when a young designer reached out to her 2 years later, struggling and unknown, Maya did what Gaga had done. She looked at their work, she saw the talent, and she gave them a chance. Because that's what real artists do. They don't gatekeep, they don't hoard opportunities. They remember what it felt like to be 3 days from giving up, and they make sure someone else doesn't have to feel that way. Lady Gaga didn't just save Maya's career, she showed her what power looks like when you use it right. And Maya never forgot that lesson. So now I ask you, have you ever been 3 days from giving up? And what would you do if someone gave you one more chance? Drop your story below. Tell us about the dream you almost quit, or the person who stopped you. Because at Celebrity Stories, we believe the next revolution doesn't need permission. It just needs someone brave enough to see it. Subscribe, share, and never let anyone tell you your weird is too weird. See you in the next one.